Let's start with a question about how to tailor your look to the company. Because we talked about different types of industries, and that kind of seems to make sense. Some are more formal than others. But to what extent should you try to tailor it to your company? And one of our members in the audience has even asked, should I try to wear colors that match the company's colors? Peyton, you're shaking your head.
No, we're not in... We're at a point in time where that just comes across as trying too hard. I think be your own person, but do cater to the company. So if you take the investment banking vertical, if you are interviewing with a European bank, you're going to have more leeway to dress a little more appropriate, or a little more fun, I should say. In there, if you don't come in a fitted suit, you're going to be overlooked. Whereas if you are with a very classic American bank, adapt accordingly. Otherwise, it shows, getting back to that point on thoughtfulness, being thoughtful can never hurt, and that's my rule of thumb.
You agree, Christina?
I do. I mean, I think that the big differentiator that I see for women among, even if within the same industry, is really around geography and really around the culture of, the area that you're dressing in. So you might be interviewing for Bain, again, in Atlanta versus Bain in New York, and those are different things. And so just understanding, ideally, if it's a geography that you already live in, you probably have a good sense of, is this a skirt place or a pants place? Is this a pantyhose or bare legs? Can I do fun statement shoes, or is that just going to be over the top? And I think you have a good sense of that. If you're not from that geography, if you're moving or you're interviewing in a couple of different places, get online and do a little bit of a lookbook research. Pull up some women who work in either that industry, in that geography, or just other women in that area, and say, like, what does she wear to work? Are they sporting a lot of color? If you're in DC or you're sort of going in that mid-Atlantic region, you can get away with some more color, but you want to make sure your neckline is all the way up to your clavicle. Whereas in the South, you might want to tone down the color a little bit and err toward the skirt suit.
Okay, so we've talked about how important it is to be put together, be clean, show your future employer that you're thoughtful and you make an effort. But to what extent should you try to be fashionable? I mean, conceivably, you might get credit for being seen as cool and fashionable. To what extent should you try to do that?
So I would say be authentic to what you are capable of pulling off. If you are a fashionable person, and again, like Peyton said, you're interviewing in more of the metropolitan areas, I think it's fine to let that show through. If you're someone who wants to wear, cobalt is big this season and you want to rock the cobalt suit instead of a navy suit, that's fine, but don't try to be something you're not, or it will come across as costumey. I think the part where you need to be more considerate is if you're interviewing away from the metropolitan areas. You're going to more of a rural setting, or you're going to maybe a closely held family firm with very strong culture and sort of, not a lot of turnover, it's a little bit more Midwestern. I wouldn't walk in looking like you just came off the streets of Manhattan. You want to be considerate about how you are going to come across, and especially if you're coming from an Ivy League or a big name business school, or any business school at all, and you're coming into a place that doesn't hire a lot of people like you. They're already going to have a preconception, and you want to make them be at ease with you fitting in there as part of their culture. And I think part of dressing the part is important for that.
So Peyton, for guys, there's kind of less variables to play around with. Yeah. So would you say that they should be even more careful with being fashionable?
Yeah, I mean, to clarify, the cobalt is in for women. Men do not go out and buy a cobalt suit. I'm not even sure where you would find that. But here's the analogy I always give when people ask this. If you take any James Bond from any era, he is as relevant today in that black tie as he was in his own time. And here's why. It was classically tailored, it was classically styled, it was classically fitted, and it was polished. I think beyond anything, any guy, regardless of fashion savviness, would love to look like James Bond for a day. And it's not because he was avant-garde. He was in every era, was in the classic realms of dress. And what I would tell guys, be more focused on polishness. Make sure your hair is cut, make sure your sideburns are trimmed, make sure your neckline is trimmed and that you don't have, I know most guys don't think about that. Make sure that your face is moisturized, it's not dry, and then make sure that you have a suit that is fitted appropriately for your body, and you have a tie that brings your outfit together. If you do those things, people are going to look at you and think you have it together.
I think fit is always more important than fashion.
For sure.
For men and women.
Yep, totally agree.